Hi, welcome to the District 2 Democratic Club's rundown of the 2020 ballot, the ballot for busy people. This is going to be a rundown of the propositions on the ballot in San Francisco. These will only be the local propositions, not the state propositions. So if you're looking for more information on those, we are happy to help. We will not be addressing those in this video. Really quick, who we are residents of District 2 seeking to give our neighbors an effective voice in government through active participation in the electoral process. We want to make sure that we energize, mobilize, and engage our community through political activities, including community forums, events, and making endorsements. There is our board of directors. I am Eric Kingsbury. To find out more about us, you can go to the District 2 Democratic Club website at d2dems.com. You can email us at d2dems@gmail.com. Check us out on Twitter at d2dems, and then Facebook. That's facebook.com/d2dems. And what's on the San Francisco ballot in 2020? President, House of Representatives, State Senate, State Assembly, San Francisco Board of Education, City College of San Francisco Board of Trustees, local ballot initiatives, regional ballot initiatives, and state ballot props. This video is just going to go into the local ballot initiatives and the regional ballot initiative. We will not be talking about the state ballot props except at the very end, and I will show you what each of them are. So let's take a look at our state ballot, or San Francisco ballot measures. There are, I believe, 12 of them. So we'll be going through all of those. The way that you can recognize those is they always use letters instead of numbers. Numbers are state, letters are city. So here we are, our San Francisco ballot measures. We have Prop A, the Health and Homelessness Parks and Streets Bond. Park B, the Department of Sanitation and Streets Commission and Public Works Commission. Prop C, removing citizenship requirements for members of city bodies. Prop D, the sheriff oversight. Prop E, police staffing. Prop F, the business tax overhaul. Prop G, the youth voting in local elections. Prop H, the neighborhood commercial districts and city permitting. Prop I, real estate transfer tax. Prop J, the parcel tax for San Francisco Unified School District. Prop K, affordable housing authorization. And Prop L, business tax based on compensation of top executives' pay to employees' pay. Well, let's talk about Prop A. So what does Prop A do? It authorizes $487.5 million in general obligation bonds for mental health and homelessness projects, including housing, shelters, community health, psychiatric, and behavioral health facilities, parks, open spaces, and rec facilities, and it improves streets, curb ramps, and plazas. This is much needed funding for our city, and obviously, as you can see, addresses a number of the crises that we are facing at this moment, especially around mental health and homelessness. So who is supporting it? Pretty much everyone. There's no organized opposition to Proposition A. It was approved by the Board of Supervisors unanimously and agreed to with the mayor. This is a bond that will replace other retiring or expiring bonds, which means it will not raise anyone's property taxes above the level that was promised in 2006. Let's talk about Proposition B. What does Proposition B do? It creates a Department of Sanitation and Streets, which would take over some of the duties of the Department of Public Works. The duties of the new Department of Sanitation and Streets would be sweeping streets and cleaning sidewalks, providing and maintaining sidewalk trash cans, removing graffiti and illegally dumped waste, and maintaining city buildings, public restrooms, and street trees. All of these are currently handled by our Department of Public Works. The idea behind this proposition is it would create a new department that would carve out some of the works that are currently done by the Department of Public Works and make sure that they are actually getting done, which is currently an issue, as I think any of us would know walking down the streets of San Francisco. Let's talk about the pros and cons for Proposition B. Some of the pros are that it creates a new 5-member oversight board for both the Department of Public Works and the Department of Sanitation. It would require a service audit unit to evaluate whether there are inefficiencies or waste in the administration, operations, and spending of both departments each year. And the new department could be changed via 2/3 vote of the Board of Supervisors. This new department would not go into effect until 2022, and even then could be delayed indefinitely by a vote of 2/3 of the Board of Supervisors. Now, I do want to highlight the creates a new 5-member oversight board because uniquely, the one department within city government that does not currently have any oversight board is the Department of Public Works. So this proposition would create an oversight board not only for the Department of Public Works, but it would create an oversight board for the Department of Sanitation, which would again be carved out from the Department of Public Works. Now, the cons is that it will create an entirely new bureaucracy with duplicate jobs that already exist in DPW. Now, think about that. All of the administrative jobs that support the Department of Public Works bureaucracy will now need to be duplicated for the Department of Sanitation. So it will create a significant number of new city jobs. Uh, Another con is that there's no identified funding stream for this new department, which is estimated to cost at least around $6 million. Obviously, with the city being in the budget crisis that it currently finds itself in, with no chance of that changing until COVID-19 is under control, that is a big concern. And another con is that it doesn't establish any benchmarks for cleanliness. So while the proposition's end goal is to make sure San Francisco does have cleaner streets, there is no way to guarantee that this new department actually does that, so much as just splits off the responsibilities from the Department of Public Works. And just so you know, the District 2 Democratic Club does recommend a no vote on Prop B. Now, who is supporting Prop B? We have a lot of people. The San Francisco Democratic Party, the Labor Council, former State Senator Mark Leno, former Assemblymember Tom Amiano, Supervisor Matt Haney, who is the author of this legislation, Supervisor Hillary Ronen, Dean Preston, Gordon Marr, Shaman Walton, Asha Safai, Aaron Peskin, Chase Boudin, Manu Raju, as well as members of the City College Board and the Board of Education, and BART Board Director Bevan Dufty. This is widely regarded as a progressive piece of legislation coming from the progressive faction of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Prop C. Now, Proposition C, what does it do? Proposition C would remove the requirement that a person be a registered voter and a U.S. citizen to serve on any city board. So what does that mean? It means that someone who is currently an undocumented immigrant or someone who is currently a legal resident will be able to serve on a city board. Now, that is not currently the case. Currently, the case is that you must be a US citizen. So the pros, this will mean more representation for communities that typically don't get direct representation in a city that is immigrant rich and does have a lot of permanent legal residents and undocumented residents. And the cons, there are really none to speak of. This will make sure that certain communities will get representation. Now, who is supporting Prop C? We have a wide swath of people. Supervisor Shaman Walton, who wrote the legislation, the board president, Norman Yee, Sandra Lee Fewer, Aaron Peskin, Gordon Marr, Dean Preston, Matt Haney, Raphael Mandelman, Hillary Ronen, Asha Safai, the San Francisco Democratic Party, and the United Educators of San Francisco. Now let's talk about Prop D. What does it do? Prop D would create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board. So currently the Sheriff's Department does not have an oversight board itself in the same way that the police department does. So what are the pros and cons? The pros are that the new oversight board for the Sheriff's Department will help prevent misconduct and discriminatory practice. And the idea is that it will restore trust in law enforcement and government. And another pro is that it actually creates a process for incarcerated people and the public to file complaints directly with an investigative office, which is something that they cannot currently do. Now, the cons is that there really is no identified funding stream for this new OIG. There is no additional way to pay for it. And again, we are in a budget crunch. Prop D, who is supporting it, Supervisor Shaman Walton is the author. He is supporting it. Matt Haney, Hillary Ronan, Dean Preston, Norman Yee, Asha Safai, Aaron Peskin, Sandra Lee Fewer, Chase Boudin, Manu Raju, the San Francisco Democratic Party, the San Francisco Labor Council, as well as many others. The District 2 Democratic Club is officially taking no position on Proposition D. Prop E, what does Prop E do? Prop E eliminates the police staffing minimum of 1,971 officers and replaces it with a regular evaluation in police staffing levels. So if anyone remembers way back in February, there was actually an audit that was done and that was released just before the COVID crisis that said we were actually about 250 police officers short of what we needed based off of our daytime population in San Francisco, which is to say that when people were coming to work, when people were coming to offices, and based off of the population growth of the city of San Francisco, we actually needed about 250 more officers than we currently had on staff every day to be able to accommodate that population growth. And what we have seen is because we have this 1971 number, this has become a bit of a max rather than a minimum. And so as long as we do keep that 1971, we've viewed things as okay. Based off of this audit, the idea is that we actually need significantly more officers. Now, of course, with this new piece of legislation and removing any sort of minimum, we could end up with more officers or we could end up with fewer. It will be based off of needs and a more official process. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of Proposition E. The pros are that we'll take a more evidence-based approach to police staffing, so it'll respond to the actual needs rather than just the arbitrary number that was 1971. And another pro is that it removes staffing from the city charter, which is where it probably doesn't belong, and allows for the police department and the police commission to oversee SFPD staffing with obviously input from the public. This is an important one. The cons are that it really could review or could result in fewer sworn officers than we have today, which could mean that we have fewer officers than 1971 uh, at any given time. With that said, there was no enforcement mechanism for that 1971 number before all of this, which meant that we would often fall short of 1971, and there was really nothing that the board or the city could do. Now, the District 2 Democratic Club is endorsing this, so we do encourage a yes vote on Prop E. And who's supporting Prop E? Well, we've got a large swath of people, some names that you've seen in the last few ballot prompts: Norman Yee, Sandra Lee Fewer, Matt Haney, Raphael Mandelman, Gordon Marr, Aaron Peskin, Dean Preston, Hillary Ronan, Asha Safai, Shaman Walton, as well as some of our police commissioners and the Bar Association of San Francisco. Prop F. Now, what does Prop F do? It changes certain taxes the city collects from city businesses, including eliminating the payroll expense tax, which we've been slowly phasing out for a long period of time, increasing the gross receipts tax rates in phases, expanding the small business exemption, and eliminating the credit for businesses that pay a similar tax elsewhere. And it increases the administrative office tax in phases and then changes the business registration tax. This proposition is a beast. It is quite complicated. There are a lot of different taxes and moving parts in it. We don't have time to go into every single aspect of it. I highly encourage you to do more research to understand the impact yourself. But there are a lot of different aspects to this, and especially that being phased in and the new expanded exemption for small businesses is going to be huge. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of Prop F. The pros are that the measure would allow or would provide tax relief to small businesses and certain industries, particularly those that have been impacted by COVID-19. Restaurants, retail, manufacturing, arts organizations, and hospitality businesses will not see any increases through 2024. So that is to say that ideally, 4 years from now, knock on wood, we will no longer be dealing with the repercussions of the COVID-19 crisis, and those businesses will be back on better footing and able to handle the tax as they do phase in. The cons, the tax on some of these businesses are higher than were originally anticipated due to the whole caused by COVID-19. The other major con, which this is a major con, if it doesn't pass, the city will have to make significant cuts. The city has already built into their budget the revenue that will come from Proposition F. It is crucial that Proposition F actually passes to make sure that the budget that was passed can be the budget that the city does operate under. If Proposition F does not pass, the city will need to go back into the budget and make significant cuts. So this is crucial. That is why everyone is supporting it. When you say who is supporting it, there is very little opposition. This needs to pass for San Francisco's budget to work as it has been passed. And the District 2 Democratic Club is endorsing this and recommending a yes vote. Let's talk about Prop D, or Prop G. Proposition G would amend the city charter to permit 16 and 17-year-olds who are US citizens and residents of San Francisco to vote in municipal elections. That is to say that anyone who is 16 and 17 will now be able to vote in local elections, just in local elections here in the city. The pros gives people with the most to gain or lose from government a say in those decisions, which is to say people that are 17 or 18 are going to be the ones that are going to have to deal with the effect of policies for the longest period of time. And they're going to be the ones that will actually be able to decide how to vote. The cons, well, there aren't really that many of note. The thing about Proposition G is that it will expand the electorate here in San Francisco. It will mean more people will be able to vote. Um, Normally that also normally younger people actually vote at a much lower rate than older people, so it's unclear how many younger people we will see vote. It does tend to be that younger people also are more progressive than older folks, so it may very well end up in an expansion of the progressive population of voters here in San Francisco if 16 and 17-year-olds are able to vote in local elections. So who's supporting it? Every member of the Board of Supervisors and the mayor are supporting Proposition G. This ballot initiative was also on the ballot back in 2018, or sorry, 2016. It did not pass. It is back again, and everyone has the chance to vote on it. The District 2 Democratic Club is officially taking no position on Proposition G. Prop H, what does it do? It streamlines zoning and permitting in commercial corridors throughout San Francisco. Proposition H, you will probably also see referred to as Save Our Small Businesses. You'll see signs for it everywhere. So again, Prop H is Save Our Small Businesses. Prop H's pros and cons. The pro is that it requires a streamlined 30-day review and inspection process for businesses that are already principally permitted in neighborhood commercial districts and neighborhood commercial transit districts. Anyone who's familiar with San Francisco's permitting process knows that it is truly Byzantine. We can often see 3, 6, 9, sometimes 12 or more months of businesses trying to get through the permitting process. The entire time they'll be paying their leases. This often will drive a business out of business before they're even able to open their doors. This has really just strangled in the cradle is the term that you hear most often when it comes to small businesses here in San Francisco. We need to be able to get more businesses off the ground, especially considering the fact that we do have as many retail vacancies as we do, and the COVID crisis is going to exacerbate problems even worse. The Chamber of Commerce is estimating that 50% of small businesses in San Francisco will go out of business. Most of them, or the majority of those, will be restaurants. We need to be able to get to a place where we can open things up quickly and businesses can actually get started once this crisis has ended. Um, Another pro here is that the Board of Supervisors can make some changes during the first 3 years, and then they can expand that number of changes after 3 years. So they will be able to expand the area that this applies to within the first 3 years, and after 3 years, they'll be able to actually make changes to the legislation as a whole. The cons are that the city will probably need more staffing to make sure that they can hit that 30-day requirement, to make sure that any business that actually does try and go through the permit process gets their permit approved or denied within a month, as opposed to 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 12 months. The District 2 Democratic Club is endorsing this legislation, as are Mayor Breed, State Senator Scott Wiener, State Assemblyman David Chu, State Assemblyman Phil Ting, Assessor Recorder Carmen Chu, Supervisor Matt Haney, Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, Supervisor Hillary Ronan, Supervisor Gordon Marr, Supervisor Asha Safai, and our own Supervisor Catherine Stephanie. Proposition I. What does Proposition I do? It's an increase in the real estate transfer tax rate on certain sales, as well as leases of 35 years or more of real estate with a price of at least $10 million and up to $25 million. For property with a sale price of less than $10 million, the current tax rate would not change. So what does that really mean in non-jargon? It means that the tax for real estate between 10 and $25 million is going to go up. At the highest point, 25 million, it will be a 6% tax on those $25 million sales. So Prop I's pros and cons. The pros are that the tax would only hit those most able to afford them, and it would add badly needed revenue to San Francisco's coffers. The cons is that it does not exempt multifamily homes, which is to say apartment buildings for the most part, which will cause issues for particularly developers, the people that would be building new homes in San Francisco, which leads to our second con. It could slow or stop construction of new housing, especially large projects in the city of San Francisco. That is a big deal. That could have a really large impact. And then the final con is that the funds that would be raised would go to the general fund, not the emergency rent relief and permanently affordable housing as authors of the legislation have claimed. So a lot of the authors of the legislation have often said that this money is going to go directly to emergency rent relief and affordable housing. The way that this ballot proposition is written is so that it can pass with 50% of the vote. Because of that, that money cannot be dedicated to, that revenue source cannot be dedicated to any single thing, which is to say that it cannot go to just affordable housing or emergency rent relief. The Board of Supervisors would be free to spend that on whatever they wish. Now, who is supporting this? Supervisor Dean Preston, who is the author, the San Francisco Democratic Party, the Affordable Housing Alliance, the San Francisco Tenants Union, the Council on Community Housing Organizations, the Eviction Defense Collaborative, the American Federation of Teachers, Alice B. Toklas, Harvey Milk, LGBT Democratic Clubs, Phil Ting, Raphael Mandelman, Hillary Ronan, Shaman Walton, Matt Haney, Gordon Marr. The District 2 Democratic Club is endorsing this. Prop J, what does it do? Prop J is a $288 parcel tax that would generate nearly $50 million for teachers' raises, and it replaces 2018's Prop G, which was nearly identical parcel tax for teacher wages. Pros, it raises the pay for SF teachers, who are some of the lowest paid in the Bay Area. This has actually been a significant issue. San Francisco's big issue with our teachers is that we tend to struggle with retention. So this is meant to address that issue. The other pro is that this tax is actually smaller than the original tax that it's replacing, that was passed in 2018. So it will be a net drop in people's property taxes. Cons, this isn't a permanent fix. This is only going to last 17 years. We're going to have to come up with another permanent funding stream that's going to allow us to raise teacher salaries here in the city. This will not be it. And this won't address the larger structural deficits that the school district is facing, which, if you saw our other video about candidates, you will note is about $120 million out of a $1.1 billion budget. It's a pretty significant number, and this does not address that. Now, who's supporting it? Pretty much everyone. Marilyn Breed, the entire Board of Supervisors, the United Educators of San Francisco, the San Francisco Labor Council, and the Parents of Public Schools. The District 2 Democratic Club is also endorsing this. Prop K. Prop K would specifically allow the city and county of San Francisco to acquire, build, or rehabilitate up to 10,000 units of subsidized affordable housing. Now, the reason why this is on the ballot is because California's Article 14 says that any, quote, low rent, quote, housing development must be approved by the voters in a municipality in which it is proposed. And so if we are to build or to build these new units and they are to be affordable housing, we must have the voters approve it. Looks like we missed the Prop K pros and cons. I will tell you there are not a lot of cons to this. The pros are that it does allow us to buy and rehabilitate that housing. We do need that vote to be able to build any of that new housing as well. There aren't any cons to this. This is just giving an approval. It is not guaranteeing that that housing will be built. It is simply giving an approval. And who's supporting it? Again, we've got pretty much everyone across the board. Norman Yee, Shimon Walton, Dean Preston, um, our own supervisor, Catherine Stephanie, David Chu, Phil Ting, Scott Wiener. It's everyone across the spectrum. We are also, as the District 2 Democratic Club, endorsing Proposition K. And finally, there's Proposition L. So what does it do? This is the CEO tax, Matt Haney's so-called CEO tax. It establishes an additional gross receipts tax on companies whose highest paid executives make more than 100 times as much as their median San Francisco employee. Now, what are the pros? It hits only those who can afford to pay the tax. It doesn't go into effect until 2022, giving businesses struggling with COVID a chance to recover, ideally. Now, what about the cons? This could drive changes in compensation structure for execs in ways that exacerbate inequality, which is to say, we could see compensation packages for executives based in San Francisco focused more on equity as opposed to actual cash. So they may actually only take home small salaries, but they may end up with equity, which can be variable, as anybody who's familiar with the stock market can attest. So it could be that executives end up making a lot more money in the long run because they're not taking cash, they're taking stock instead. It could drive more businesses to relocate low and middle income jobs outside of San Francisco. Remember, this is based off of, if you remember, 100 times as much as their median San Francisco employee. So if the median employee in San Francisco is also an executive or someone who is very highly paid, then you can more easily game this system. It actually won't raise very much revenue for San Francisco. It's mostly just done symbolically as sort of a poke in the eye to places that pay their executives a particularly high amount of money. That is not necessarily something that any of us want to defend, but it is not something that is going to really add to San Francisco's coffers. Um, so that is a little bit of an issue. And there is an outside chance that this will drive more businesses out of San Francisco, especially as tech companies move towards being remote during COVID-19. They may very well decide to stay remote and headquarter elsewhere. This could cause issues in the long run, particularly. So this is a piece of symbolic legislation that won't raise very much money and is just meant to point out an inequity. It would be much better done at the federal level. It is something that many of us think should be done at the federal level, but at the local level, it is not necessarily beneficial. And the District 2 Democratic Club is recommending a no vote on Proposition L. So who is supporting Proposition L? Well, it is a large swath of San Francisco's elected officials. We have the San Francisco Democratic Party, we have the San Francisco Labor Council, we have Phil Ting, David Chu, Scott Wiener, Matt Haney, who's the author of this legislation, Hillary Ronen, Shimon Walton, Gordon Marr, Dean Preston, Aaron Peskin, Asha Safai, Norman Yee, Sandy Fewer, Raphael Mandelman, Chesa Boudin, Manu Raju, Mark Leno, and Tom Amiano. We have one more ballot measure that we're going to be going into. It's our regional ballot measure. It's Measure RR. It's the 1/8 cent sales tax across San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties. It will directly fund Caltrain. The thing about this is Caltrain does not have a dedicated funding source aside from the revenues that it takes in at the fare box, which is to say that when you pay to ride Caltrain, you are giving them revenue. They do not have a dedicated stream elsewhere. COVID has hit them very hard. They already did need additional funding. They were facing a much smaller deficit. This is meant to cover that. If this 1/8 sales tax is not approved, it is quite possible that Caltrain will need to shut down entirely until they can come up with a new revenue stream. That is a serious issue. So we are recommending a yes vote on this. We think it's crucial that the 1/8 cent sales tax for Caltrain passes. It does need to pass across those three counties. So in San Francisco, ideally, we will be running up the score to help make sure that across the county, the aggregate number is quite high. And the California state ballot measures, here is a list of them. We're not going to go into them. You can learn more about those either in your voter guide, or you can see our endorsements about them as well. We have those up on our website. That's d2dems.com. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and look forward to November 3rd, Election Day.